Okay, welcome to the Monday, February 14th, 2022 meeting of the Easton Planning and Zoning Board. Our chair, Greg Strange, is absent, so I'm Peter Deshane. I'll be hosting the meeting while he's not present. This meeting will be conducted remotely on Zoom in keeping with an act relative extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. Attendance by the board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAP. Omas, our alternate member, will be serving as a full voting member today. And we shall do a roll call. Peter Deshane here.
Robert Stetson here.
Almost get him here.
Deborah Balsaric here.
Okay, so we have a few continuances of public hearings. The first one of them being 20 South Street, Old Forge Commons, which might have some members of the public here for. So if I could request a motion to continue to which date, Stephanie?
The 28th, February 28th.
Motion to continue is 20 South Street to February 28th.
I'll second that.
Okay, no further discussion. All positive? Deshane, aye.
Balsaric, aye.
And Stetson recuses.
All right, motion passes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Stephanie.
No. I was just, it doesn't matter. Nope.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The next continuance we have is 35 Aquanica Avenue special permit duplex. Is that being continued to the next meeting as well?
Yes. And the reason that one's being continued is because there would not be, if this is a special permit, and there would not be enough voting members.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to continue 35 Pequannock to February 28th.
Kevin, second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye, Peter.
Stetson, aye.
Kevin, aye.
Balsaric, aye.
Okay, motion passes. One more continuance is 551 Foundry Street.
No. No, I don't think that's continuing. I think it's just referencing the fact that it was already a continued.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, we'll start off with
Meeting.
551 Foundry Street then.
Yeah.
And I think the board, let me promote Rick Lincoln. The board should remember that Mr. Lincoln is asking to relocate the position of the garages. It was learned that the setback wasn't met due to the fact that it's a corner lot, and each property line abutting the road is considered front yard. And the board wanted to see some additional information on other options.
Sorry, guys.
Hello, welcome. Just please introduce yourself for the.
Hi, my name is Rick Lincoln, and I am the applicant for 551 Foundry Street. Hoping to get a approval on the architecture, I think, at this point.
Stephanie, you have some new plans that we could look at?
Oh, wait a minute. This is 551 and not 5. I'm
Correct.
sorry.
Right.
Rick, are you sharing your screen?
I can share my screen,
Yeah.
I think.
Do that.
Let's see. Can everybody see?
Yeah,
There, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me get down, that's too far. Suzanne was kind enough to consolidate everything, so. Yeah, man. There we go. Okay. There's the front elevation. So I think, well, I don't think, I know the concern last time was some lack of detail on the trim, as well as kind of a rear. They had that long slope on a pitched roof in the back. So BKA heard that and went back and amped up their plans. I'll see if I can zoom in. So they've added, we always had the window casing before, but I think it wasn't that clear, you know, in the last drawings. So we've got some beefed up corner boards. You can kind of see. You know, you can kind of see some of the trim around the top of the corner board, certainly the window pediments, and there's a little more detail here than there was last time. The window casing is actually kind of a double casing, which is trying to mimic what we found over on 555 on the corner. I think originally they had on the drawing, it wasn't commented on, but I said, if I'm going at this level, that, you know, we replaced I think he had some white vinyl rails and balusters. So, you know, this is all going to be wrought iron with granite steps. And and then we, of course, I was going to do it anyway, but he had some really tiny lanterns, and I told him to try and upsize the lanterns. I still think they're a little small, but we can do that in the field. I know it's a little detail, but he's got this little lattice work on the bottom, which we tend not to do. You know, we'll do like vertical whiteboard. And then on the, sorry for my computer, there's a better look. So this up here, we had to lengthen the second floor, which just kind of expanded the square footage on the second floor by 100 square feet. But the architect was able to eliminate this. You know, it was like a, didn't quite synchronize with the whole approach to the federal style on the front. So this was squared off, roof lengthened a little bit. So, you know, I think he cured that problem. And you can see we carried the window trim all the way around on both sides of the house, you know, including corner boards and so forth. And a water table around the bottom. So, I mean, he just took a crack at landscaping, so that's just a guess. So I think that was it, to my knowledge, for some of the architectural comments on this one.
Great, thank you. Board members, do you have any suggestions or comments?
I think it's improved. Thank you, Rick.
I
No,
agree.
thanks. I thought as soon as I mentioned it to the architect, they knew exactly. They agreed.
Okay, so Stephanie, are there any other outstanding items for
No.
this lot?
No, I really think that's, this is a little different from site plan review. It's primarily just about the suitability of what's being proposed within the district, so.
Yep, so we could entertain a motion on this project, if there are no other questions for the applicant.
Is there
Motion to-
any questions for many of the participants at this point?
Oh, Deb, I missed that question. I'm sorry. Any questions on what?
From the participants, is there any other participants? I don't know if we have anybody that,
Well, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
okay.
So we don't have anyone from the public?
No.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second,
Kevin,
Stetson.
second.
Is there any further discussion or questions from members of the public?
And again, I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Hear them? All in favor? Peter Deshane, aye.
Stetson, I.
Kevin, I.
Bill Sarek, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone, on that one.
Yep, thank you, but please stick around.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so now we have the next adjacent lot, right? 553 Foundy Street.
Yes.
Sir. So this is obviously similar in the sense where the garage is in the rear. Let me see here. But the architecture obviously is much different. And I think we had some discussion last time on this, but
Mhm.
same level of detail on, is 551. This is 553. I'm not 100% sure that all these, the other 551 was that sold. I didn't even have it listed. These folks were prior clients coming in from Sharon. They love the area and everything. So that was their wish, was the multiple windows for a sunroom. Personally, I'd probably try and split those windows. So that I would just call maybe a placeholder. But the rest is solid. So it's a slightly different floor plan, with a center staircase and kind of I don't know if I have the floor plan on here, but that's the other side. So I don't know about the brick down there. I didn't even see that before. You got you let those architects go, but we're not going to do railing and a wood deck out here. Those will be granite steps out to a patio, which is the same as 551. And this is the master suite back here with a master bathroom in here. So I doubt. I didn't even see that he put the little cupola up there, but he's got a lot of detail on it. I love it. I don't think we heard any comments last go around, but wide open for questions from you folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll probably look at the site plan a little bit too, right? But as far as
Okay. Yep.
we could start with the architecture. That's kind of a good way to kind of preface it, so we have an idea how this will look, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry about that.
That's great.
I think it's before the, no?
Oh, these are the garages, so it's way up.
Yeah, it's before the rendering. I saw them, they look identical in footprint to the other one. Right?
Yeah, it was really right. It was at the beginning. Oh, here we go.
So
Identical, no?
Yeah, with this one, this driveway's got a slight radius at the beginning. This one's a straight shot. But like I said, the floor plan, the garage in the rear, a little bit of asphalt behind the garage, identical widths, lot. Utilities are being brought in very similarly. We're working with National Grid right now on this. And electrical, telephone and cable here. Water and gas coming straight in from the road. And then, you know, we developed this sewer easement across the back. In conversations with DPW, you know, I think we talked about that based on the inverts out here on the road is probably 10 feet shallower than it is down here on Foundry Street. And again, these lots weren't stubbed out when sewer got put in originally because town didn't even know these lots were going to be here. So we all thought this was a good idea by DPW, and we certainly have the land back here to accommodate the sewer easement. But you can see similar distances off the rear and the side lot lines as well as the front. And this grading, you'll see top of foundation, there's 2 feet difference. You go 117 here, there's 119 here. And I don't know what it is here, but this one's up about 2 feet or so based on what I can see for existing grades out in the yard. So it's a nice slow pitch down to meet with these folks down here. So everything levels off really nice, and all the drainage works. So and no discussion with leaching field on this one, which is very nice. All sewer. So I think that's it.
All right, how about on those, so that you're showing existing trees on this plan, is that?
Oh, yes. So
All right.
these, sorry.
Okay, on the new house. Yeah, we sort of went over that last time. I meant on the over here at 553.
Right here.
No, over to the right.
Oh, 551. So these are all staying, and then you can see a proposed grade. There's 115, there's 116. So probably right in here is where it gets a little, we should be able to keep all of these, but we may lose a couple of the, you know, as we feather the grades back. So you can see an existing grade right through the middle here of 115. And we're proposing it to be 116. So we're only talking about 12 inches. So we should be able to fit, these obviously would go right here. But we're hoping we can keep almost all of these.
Okay, yeah, I think the neighbors
as well
were
as
back. Yeah, I know those were sort of smaller on the other lot, right? But yeah.
Right. Yep.
Stephanie, did you have any comments on the plan?
Nope.
I was wondering on the invert on the sewer at 114.7 on the home on the right. So to go from that, is that enough grade? Do you have to have a pump installed to run from there to the?
No, there is no pump.
Because
The invert out here is, you know, like, what's that?
11.
A little over 3 feet, you know, grade drop.
Yeah, so that's enough over what, 200 feet or so?
Right.
It can be quite slight. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done them where it's awful flat before, you know, you need some pitch, but this one's not near flat. I mean, there's plenty of pitch.
Okay. Either way, yeah, you find a way to move it. So yeah.
Yep.
Board members, do you have any questions? We can go back to
It looks great.
architectural, but yeah, I was thinking.
I was just gonna comment that I do like the brick at the foundation level and the cupola. So nice touches if you choose to keep them.
I know, I do like the brick.
Yeah,
Oh,
should
and
be-
they also, and the 12/12 windows, I don't know if that was owner request or that was just in there by chance.
I think that's in there by chance, and it's a funny story. I don't want to waste everybody's time, but over here on 555, we were kind of playing with a wall up in a bathroom to try and do some work in there. We actually found an original window in the wall where they just walled on either side of the window and left the window there.
Wow.
But it was not a 12/12. It was a 6/6.
That's funny.
We're like, okay, we got that one right. So,
I have a question for Mr. Lincoln.
yes, sir.
Yeah, on an early meeting, the neighbor to the back mentioned privacy. Have you had a discussion? You were supposed to talk to him, or he was supposed to talk to you about
The property.
doing some work with landscaping to ensure his privacy, I guess, or you leave it to him? Have you have any discussion?
We did. So after the meeting, I did call him. Then we had a second meeting and I've not talked to him since. I did promise that I would do something out here. It's this section right here. We don't have his house on the existing conditions. I'm guessing, I think it's kind of right in the middle of his lot, his and her lot, I should say. But trees aren't going to do it. I need to talk to the landscape architects and either do a fast grow. It's a bit shady over here, so I just need to find the right vegetation, whether it's an evergreen, which I've done a lot of over the years, which is fast growing and provides a lot of like mid height. But I did promise him I would put something there, and I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So, Peter, may I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, sure, please go ahead.
So Rick, you show there were several trees in the backyards behind both 553 and 551. Clearly, you're going to need to clear some for construction of the homes there. But when I drive by, it's not like you can see right into the backyards into the neighbors' yards. Are you going to retain those trees?
We're going to retain, so probably, see this sewer line, this big easement, it's just a little narrow sewer line that's getting put in here. We
Yeah.
don't have to stay dead center.
Yeah.
So my plan is I'll have this corner marked, surveyed. So we'll avoid the trees. So all of these will stay.
Yeah.
And then over here, that's what I just mentioned earlier. I'm not sure. It depends on how we feather the grades out. But my guess is that certainly this back half will stay, and these front ones, obviously I don't want to put too much fill on the trunk base and the roots, but I think I'm talking probably, I don't know, 6 inches of soil by the time we meet the existing grades. So some of these could stay. What it doesn't show on here, there's a lot of trees on the other side of the lot line as well.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at a Google map right now, and there really seems to be and it's a tree buffer. I don't know.
Right.
When I say again, driving along Foundry Street and driving safely, you can't really spend a lot of time trying to look to see what the buffer is behind, but there does seem to be some vegetation.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the spot that probably is the weakest because they have grass back here.
Yeah.
There's not a lot, but over here it's kind of woodsy.
Yeah.
So mature trees and so forth.
Peter, we have 2 members of the public with their hands raised. Dale Kerrister raised his first, and then we have a Jesse Blaze.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to allow Dale to talk first.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to alert Rick.
Sir, just please introduce yourself and state your name and address.
Sure, sorry, Dale Carrister, 21 South Street.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to make sure Rick was aware that I'm aware of one other neighbor, the neighbor at 7 South Street, who also had some concerns regarding privacy issues for her property. I believe she already reached out to your attorney, Walter, Rick. But I'm sure she would appreciate being in the discussion with respect to whatever you might be doing back in that area. That being said, I just wanted to weigh in also. I think the new homes are beautiful, and I think those plus what you've done at 555 really enhances the historic neighborhood here. And from my perspective, it also really enhances the purpose of further establishing the residential footprint in the area. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your flexibility and how you've been responding to issues and questions that have been raised by Greg and others on the board about the architectural design and so forth. And I think the homes are beautiful, will be a fantastic addition to the neighborhood. So those were just the 2 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess it's my turn. This is Rick.
Okay.
I'm not sure which person, I think, see these lot lines right here and here. If I'm right, I think it's a woman that lives, I mean, her house is back here. And Walter had mentioned on one occasion to me that I think her concern was his lights come up this driveway here, that she might see the lights. But again, some of that depends if I can leave like at least all of these trees. I'm not sure how much, light pollution or light encroachment occur on her lot. If I do end up taking some of these trees out and it was an issue, I certainly would plant some vegetation along there.
Okay,
Right.
Peter, would you like me to allow Jesse Blaze to speak now?
Yeah, yes, please.
Hi. Can
Hello.
you hear
Yep, yes, please state your name and your address.
Jesse Blaze and Fred Blaze at 3 South Street?
Hello.
So we are right behind all these 555 and the 2 new houses that are gonna go there. And we have a lot of concerns about our whole backyard is gonna see all these 3 houses that we usually don't have, and we're gonna have new garages. We're worried about that. My husband did talk to him about a fence or trees or whatever to block that. In the last meeting, he made a comment, just the 2 new houses, but we're talking 555 too, because now we're gonna have garages there and a lot. And we're also worried about the water drainage, just the, am I saying that right? The water drainage in our backyard when he starts building there.
All right, Rick, have you had any further discussion about the screening?
No, well, the drainage is the easiest one because the water pitches from the rear of the yard. Oh,
Yeah, to my backyard.
no, it goes from here to the front. So like here is a 119 grade, and then 117, 150, it pitches towards Foundry Street.
Okay.
And we're not doing anything over on 555, until we figure out what we're doing with the 2-car garage. But the two-car garage is going to, we're tearing down this impervious roof, and we are adding a little impervious, but that small amount of impervious won't, again, the water's not going to go uphill. And I'm sorry when I said the 2 house, I meant Jesse, this house and this house, not this house way over here.
Yeah.
So that's what we were talking about earlier, is this area here. Is to come in with, I don't like fences. I would prefer not to do a fence. But I'd be happy to do some,
Yeah, I mean, I think just
Awesome.
like, yeah, because we've had, several of the discussions about this, and it's always, well, I should be able to save a good amount of these trees, but we're not really, we don't know
So-
until we do grading, right?
So I could just say, can somebody from the town come in my backyard and look at what we're looking at for what's happening with these 3 homes? Because when I say my backyard, we're gonna see all 3 of these going from one single home to four homes. And so our whole backyard is about all 3 of these with no trees to cover anything or
Yeah, I mean,
privacy.
I think I know I have, and other members have, either driven or walked through that area. So-
Could someone meet us at our property so you can see what we're talking about?
Well, I was thinking, Stephanie, maybe, as
Well,
we
we've
see
been,
how this, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, the entire board went out and did a site walk.
But did they walk in my backyard and look to see what's happening to us? I've
No,
been here for 30 years and I've been in my
You-
town.
so you have no vegetation on your property between
Not-
yours and the abutting
Very,
property?
very, very, very little. I'm like probably a couple of trees and that's it for all 3 of these homes.
So your property,
Exactly.
your property is cleared up to the property line of Mr. Lincoln's.
All,
property.
yes, all 3 addresses, yes. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that, as part of the decisions, we might just have to, is it something that we can look at after the lots have been cleared and see if a fence is needed because there's an absence of trees, or is that even possible, Stephanie?
Well, I mean, certainly,
There is an absence of all trees for all 3 of these lots. There's no doubt when you're sitting in my backyard.
but there would be nothing preventing you from also planting material as a buffer along your property line.
And I've never had to do this in all these years that I lived in my home. So why should I do it now? Because somebody's buying this property and building these homes and new garages and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, other board members, do you think, I was sort of listening to Mr. Lincoln and that his intent is to save as much of the trees or shrubbery, towards the back and in spots where we can, so that there is some screening, but the other option is to.
There
require
is
fence.
no screening. There's no screening in our backyard.
Yeah, sometimes trees are a little better than a fence, because they're a little more spread out and they're bigger, but
And I'm fine with that, but how big are these trees and how long is it gonna take for them to grow?
well, they're the existing trees, but so we understand, thank you for your,
We don't have existing trees to block us.
So I thought what I heard, and I'm certainly not going to put words into Mr. Lincoln's mouth, was that he was contemplating possibly some evergreens back there to address this issue specifically. Mr. Lincoln, what are your thoughts?
I've been down this road a million times, with buffers. And you put up a 4-foot fence out there or a 5-foot fence, you're not going to block the house. And it requires maintenance and everything else. Vegetation is much more natural.
Now you need to talk.
Jesse's right that, it's going to take a little time to get mature. But anything in the evergreen family, pine, I just planted some out at Eastendale Cottages, some kind of blue spruce, and they're beautiful. And they block the neighbor's happy with them. In my opinion, it's just my opinion, but I think vegetation works best, and it's all natural too. It's not a fence.
So I think one of the questions that that I have for Stephanie is what can we do as a board to ensure that something gets put up along the lines of what Mr. Lincoln's talking about? Is there anything we can put into this approval or request something on the site plan?
The board could request that. There is, yes. And especially when you're doing site plan review for commercial development, you want a buffer between the properties. But the board could ask for some buffer, vegetated buffer. I mean, personally, I agree with Mr. Lincoln. I personally prefer vegetated buffers over fence lines.
Yeah, I was thinking of it from one standpoint where we could require, certain size trees in certain places, or a fence, or, is there a way where we can kind of see how the grading comes out, since, as Mr. Lincoln's mentioned, which not exactly sure how all that grading is going to work out, and then see what's reasonable to request. So, I mean, we usually say you have to plant X amount of pine trees.
I think
Go ahead.
I also think, to be fair, I mean, right now, Rick, the trees that you're showing are pretty much the vegetation that's along that buffer. There isn't a vegetated like shrub layer growing between the two properties.
No, all these properties out there, including the one in the middle, which is, because their lot line stops about 3/4 of the way across that rear middle lot. They were all grassed by both neighbors, right? The people in 555
Right.
and Jesse and her husband. It's just grass, but it looks nice, and there were trees there. But yeah, there's no undergrowth there at all.
So I certainly think that, retaining the trees, the mature trees that are there, that I'm sure provide shade for both properties and some visual interest, makes a lot of sense. And maybe supplementing that.
I would agree, Stephanie, and I guess considering that there isn't an existing buffer that's being taken down due to this construction, and given that it's residential up against residential, I think it's nice that Mr. Lincoln is willing to kind of assess the situation and work with a neighbor to provide extra buffering, but I'm not really sure that I think it's required, in that there isn't any buffer currently. So it doesn't seem to me that there is a hardship that is being created by the fact that there is currently not any existing trees.
I mean, that's all I feel like there are already some existing trees, and there's the opportunity maybe for both sides to either plant a tree here or there on their own property, or
As needed.
or here, right? Yeah, yeah, as needed. It really seems to make sense. After once things start being built there, it'll make more sense about where a tree would really be appropriate to maybe block a driveway or a light or something.
Right, and if these lots weren't being developed, there's nothing that would prevent the owner from clearing all those trees up to their property line. So meaning if Mr. Lincoln hadn't purchased this land, if this wasn't being developed into these 3 lots, whoever the owner is could clear those trees right along that lot line. So I think the board requiring preservation of the existing trees and some augmentation would be fair.
Okay, are there any other members of the public raising their hand?
Jessie has raised her hand again.
Okay, well, you can accept her.
Hi.
Well,
So anyways, I'm listening to this. And it's not so much about, we went from one single home in our backyard. And we're talking a lot more. So I'm talking about more privacy from going from one single home to these 4 families in my backyard. Hello?
yeah, hi. No, I mean, we're taking that into consideration. Um, We
Could
don't
I,
have we're not gonna force them to build.
can I have some of you meet me in my yard and I'll show you for the last 30 years what I lived to and what I'm gonna do now with these four families from one family in my backyard.
No, I know, but we've all been there though, and we looked, you know.
No,
we
no,
looked a lot. We
do
could
you
see
live
our
here?
house from right there,
Has this
so-
happened in your yard?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
You haven't been in my backyard and sat in my house on my deck and looking there from going to one single family living there to 4 homes that are going over there with new garages and the privacy we always had. And that's gonna be totally gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, we all have walked.
I know you've been to
around there, so no,
555.
well, you can't
You've
just
been to
interrupt every time we speak here.
555?
So,
But you have not stood in my yard and looked back there.
I'm not sure if that's what we're going to do to hold up, you know, the process here is I'll go back to look from your backyard. Unless anyone else is interested in that option.
I went out there. I
Mhm.
went out there for the site walk and I walked through the backyard and, you know, did I go into her backyard? I did not, but I could clearly see it.
It is exposed. The question is the legality of us requesting to build a buffer or to plant a buffer. Can we do it? Do we have the power to do that?
No, and really, I mean, you know, we kind of started here with we also started here with 553.
Give me a second.
Yeah, we sort of moved it back over to the, you know, back over there because, you know, we're kind of accepting all the neighbors at the same time since it's so close, but I mean, we've looked at that one a few times. We almost had that sort of, you know, we've already talked about that at a couple meetings, right? So I think if we want to, Stephanie, you answered the question from the other the texter.
I did, but I would ask, and what I really should have done was ask that they raise their hand and speak. So let me read that out loud in my response. Lisa Marie Barker asked, is it going to 3 families or 4? And the response was 555 is being converted to a duplex. The 2 additional lots are single family homes.
Yes, yeah.
So you're welcome.
Okay, right. So we started off, we were talking about 553. And, you know, we talked about the screening in the back. And there weren't really any other board comments. We could go back to the architecture. I think it was actually looked good to me. Board members, do you need more information on 553 or how do you think we should proceed?
Man, I think it looks good. I'll, if you're entertaining motions, I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second
Second
for
it.
553? Thank you, Deb. All in favor? DeShane, aye.
Stetson, I.
Balsaric, aye.
Martha, you're with us.
Never mind.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, that was for 553?
we started with 551, right? And then we went to
Yep.
553. And now we have the 555 garage location and That was
Yeah.
555 was a modification to the,
Right. Peter, before we move on, I don't have in my notes that the board voted in support of 551. Did the board vote for 551?
Yes,
We did.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
we're moving on. Yep, that's all right.
and I didn't hear, did Amos
I
vote?
think we have all these 550s here, so we got.
Yes, yeah.
I thought I was keeping track of it correctly, but I could have.
Well,
been wrong.
I usually write next to it and I did not, so.
Okay. So now we have the first and the last, 555, which is really just the garage relocation as a minor modification to the previously approved plan. Rick, do you have some options here for us?
I do. So Deborah had asked us to, or at least me to kind of lay out what some of the iterations were on the garage, trying to figure out how to place it on the site. This is one of the plans where, you'd be coming in off of Pequonnet Street. And you can see that that's supposed to be parallel here. So we were trying to kind of keep this plane. I don't think anybody likes this. It's a little too close to the road, and the garage doors, at least for access, you'd be walking it. Plus, you'd be paving this in addition to all the pavement that's already there. So we kind of canned that one pretty quick. This is another one. So now the garage doors are facing the front. We wrestled with a car coming out of here, and I think there's plenty of room, but you can't back straight out, without hitting the house. But it's not bad. We would pave here and then all the way over to here. And then again, that's supposed to be parallel with the back of the house. I don't know if they got that quite perfect. Oh, they probably ran a line off that existing shed garage, which will get torn down. So that's another one. Here's yet another one. We're kind of tucking it behind the house a little bit, leaving enough room. Probably could be another couple feet this way, but kind of I could almost visualize like a paved stone walkway here. And then this would be the deck. We would probably keep this deck side right here. Instead of centering it here, we might kind of bias it a little bit this way to give room to come around the garage. But again, when they're facing Pequonnet Street, not sure. At least this one's a little closer for people walking out and around. And we'd probably do a driveway, something like this, to try and force people to, so we don't have to create another curb cut. I don't know if the other one's down here. It's probably on the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What do you think about the options? I liked option 2 a little better.
I agree. I that would be my preference so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go back to option 2 for?
I think this is it right here.
So, and they pull right in off the kind of the existing / proposed driveway.
Right. I think we had this, that was the very first approach.
Mhm.
But we had it right up against the driveway line. And we didn't like that. So that's when I came up with that angled approach. But, I know not everybody likes that one either. So then I came back and I said, well, what if we just push it back a little bit? And I can clean up some of this pavement.
Now, in light of this modification, maybe the kind of the repositioning of the garage, maybe is it possible that we could actually have some trees put on the plan behind the garage, so it's not just sort of maybe others might not see a view of like a mass of buildings in a line along.
No, I
that
can,
area.
I can plant a few
Yeah.
trees there, but it is one story, with a hip roof, so it's not, it is intentionally understated, like, I don't know if I'd call this house an understatement, but, but
Yeah,
the,
and
but the
it's
hip,
more just
but
like,
the hip
you have
roof
that line
lowers.
of probably some buildings there. It does detract from what maybe people used to be used to seeing. And the garage is not. I'm not saying the garage is ugly, but then it's not. A tree might look better. In front
Right.
of a garage.
No, I could do that. And
Yeah,
Deborah,
and-
obviously, this would, we'd make sure this line was parallel here.
Okay.
One of my thoughts was, this is all town land, it's all part of the roadway. And this is like, I don't know how they lived in this house for this long, but one of my thoughts was these are really big, nice trees, is to chop this driveway right here and then vegetate this whole area, get rid of the asphalt. So you don't, you can't pull in this way. Right now, if you kind of come around here and pull in this way, somebody's like right on your bumper. It's not that safe. And we have had a few people try and go out this way, which is really bad, because then you're trying to cross the road here and stop. I mean, I know there's going to be a traffic light here, but I thought it'd kind of be interesting to, if second floor here wants to unload their groceries, they can pull their car up, but then you got to pull it back and park back here or in the garage, where you're supposed to. And all this gets, I could put some nice vegetation in here, which actually blocks that garage a little bit more. So just a
Yeah, I thought
thought.
about that too.
Yeah. Because this whole
With-
area is just solid grass, there's really no bushes to speak of. They're just these two beautiful trees. But if this was planted a little bit, I think it would look very nice.
Yeah, that would be nice
and-
just for the whole neighborhood, especially when the lights and the across the street going there. That might just be nice for kind of the whole area to have
Right.
a little, larger paved landscape section.
So,
Right.
Rick, question.
Yes.
With this option, you need to add pavement,
A basement
garage.
to the, no, I wouldn't. I just do it slab on grade.
Okay. So what are the cons, in your opinion, for this option? Rick,
I'm sorry.
what are the cons? What are the
The
negatives?
cons, there's probably only one, and it's just a hair of a longer walk as opposed to the angle. But on the bright side, if I assigned this side to the second floor and put a side door on the ground, I'm just thinking out loud, they could actually walk like right here, which is not a bad idea. So I kind of like this one.
All right, so what we need to see is a revised plan without red lines. I'm showing the new driveway and omitting any, the old driveway that's to be turned back to landscaping or yard.
I can do that.
Yeah, and then the proposed landscaping or trees, I hope, behind the garage. And an idea of what's going in the front area there. I'm just so,
Right here.
yeah, we talked a lot about landscaping, so maybe, well, behind the garage is behind the garage, in where it says grass, or is that, I guess that brings up the question, where's the sewer pipe again? How close?
That's a great question, because when one of the earlier versions, we had to move the sewer easement back. So it comes right in between these trees, and this garage is just outside the easement.
So what does that do to the possibility?
It all works. Yep. And I can plant trees in an easement, so that's okay. Just don't want to get them too close to the sewer
That's what I
line.
meant, right? Yeah, so if the sewer is, say, what, 21 feet from that corner of the garage, then you still have plenty of space to put some trees closer to the garage.
Right, right. I gotta be careful with the tree, you don't want them too close to get, but I would think 10 feet off, to be careful with roots and leaves on top of the garage roof and all that stuff.
Okay,
So,
so you can do 3 trees, 3 like rail trees back there, the trees that grow to rail trees, maybe at least one being a evergreen, the other 2 up to you.
sure.
Could be that makes sense to anyone else?
And my thought would be, I think the trees are a good suggestion, but obviously for the garage to be complementary to the house, I think if there was, potentially at least a single window on the Pequannock side. And, I think probably if there were some evergreens or something to maybe dress up the back, if you didn't do a back door or another window or something there, that would maybe, again, make that structure be a little bit more inviting and complementary to the house. But otherwise, I definitely think that this is a much more pleasing arrangement, not only for the house, but for the street and the approach.
Yeah, and I guess to be clear that the driveway is not going to extend into that crushed stone section, right? That will become yard or landscaping.
Where's the crushed stone?
Where you have the existing wood garage.
Yeah,
With the-
behind
Oh,
the-
yeah, I'm sorry. No,
Yeah.
that'll turn into landscaping. Honestly, like a nice, little planting around the corner here off the edge of the driveway would look really pretty, something like that. But this pavement will probably radius out like this, and we'll try and this corner, something like that.
Rick, could you just show that again? Could you move your?
Oh, and actually, I probably wouldn't even keep this corner, so I might pick this point right here.
Yep.
Just do a nice soft radius up, I think would look nice like that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And there's plenty of existing pavement here for people coming out and turning around. So I don't think that's an issue.
We're going to.
And I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly that you were considering then if this was the desirable option of removing some of the driveway on the southern portion?
Right here. So I would cut this off like right there.
Yep. Okay. Mhm.
Right angle, and then all of this comes out,
Yeah.
which it really should.
Yeah, that will really
yeah.
improve, yes,
Yeah.
aesthetics.
Yep.
Question, are all these modifications come back to us with a plan that shows everything that we are talking about today?
That's what we were getting. Yeah, I think we're gonna, hopefully the final phase of this would be to see a clean plan with all those changes that we just talked about. Yep, that sounds good. Okay with everyone.
Yeah, I can do all that.
Great. Stephanie, were there any public participation for?
Oh, Jessie just raised her hand. Hold on a
Okay.
second.
Okay. Oh, Jesse.
So either way, I'm looking at this. This is all in my backyard. The garage is already connects to my property. So I'm a little worried about how close everything's going into our backyard. And our privacy, any privacy we have is gonna be gone.
Okay, I mean, that's actually a pretty small garage compared to what, anyone could put there.
Yes,
if they
I
just bought
know.
that and built the
Yes,
garage.
I agree with that, but we're going from one single family home to 4 over there. And now you're talking 2 garages there, one, which they never used. It's like I said, this is right on my borderline here. So I'm questioning a lot about my privacy, what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully the garage does help, block some of the,
I don't want to look at a garage.
Well,
you did suggest some trees there, so I don't know what else to really say, except that maybe,
we can-
talk about trees there. Anyone else have any ideas on how that garage could be less visible to that side?
So the garage meets the setback requirements, which are intended to provide distance between a structure and abutting properties. Mr. Lincoln has agreed to keep trees and plant
Now we're
some
adding some trees. Mhm.
and adding some. I mean, again, I don't think there's,
This is, I think the point is that this is not violating any rules. Besides the fact that it's a development in back of your house, but by right, they can do it. So anything else that they're agreeing to do is, there needs to be some kind of compromise.
All right, in that case, I think we would just continue to one more meeting in anticipation of a plan depicting all the changes we just talked about.
We need to make a motion for that, or it just goes,
Yeah, let's make a motion to continue to the next meeting.
so moved.
Second,
All in favor? Deshaun, aye.
Stetson, I.
Balsaric, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Stephanie, so am I correct that we did correctly continue 35 to 37 Paquonicket?
yes.
Okay, I thought maybe I had misunderstood you earlier, but okay, so now we, and we continued 20 South Street, so we are now on to board business.
Yes.
Which is to vote to hold public hearing for zoning amendments. I know we talked briefly about some of these, the last meeting, or maybe the one before that, but I think you had a little, you don't have to go into too much detail, but could you give us an overview of each of these?
Yes.
If you have any relevant short discussion about these before we actually open public hearings.
Yeah, so the first item is for the board to consider whether to add self-storage as a use in the business districts. Currently, such use is not allowed. The board could consider either by right or special permit. And this kind of came to our attention. There has been some interest in some self-storage facilities somewhere in town. The second one came to our attention when a prospective tenant for the small building at the front of Queesit Commons, the board will remember that they permitted that for likely a small restaurant. And there's someone who's interested in renting that, but they need as a restaurant, but they need outdoor dining. That's a non-starter for them if it's not allowed. And there doesn't seem to be any reason not to allow outside dining there. So this is for consideration of adding outside dining.
So that still go through the Board of Appeals too, or is it just be as a, like a?
If it's an allowed use, and again, it could be an allowed use special permit by the planning board, then it doesn't have to go to the Board of Appeals.
Okay, go ahead.
Under flexible development, the board will recall that recently in reviewing Goodspeed Estates, there was a thought that I think by the applicant that the front yard setback could be reduced. And in fact, was shown as 0 in one location, I think maybe on a table. So the suggestion is, and the flexible development code is actually silent on the front yard setback, whereas it definitely references the side yard setbacks, and that the board may allow a reduction in the side yard setbacks. So it would seem to make sense to eliminate any confusion, and the thought that an applicant might be able to just change that setback on their own, that a reference be included to the front yard setback as well. So the board may want to consider the ability to allow a reduction in the front yard setback, or make it very specific that the front yard setback would not, a reduction would not be allowed. But the idea,
it's really for the Furnace Village District zoning, and then also for the flexible development special permit. Is that the idea?
the Furnace Village District is a different,
Oh, okay, I see.
a different issue.
Okay, so right here we have self-storage, outdoor dining, increase it. And there's Center Depot Street intersection. So I just didn't see the lot depth on flexible development listed here on the list. So I thought maybe you were talking about both the two in one.
Okay,
So we
no,
know.
it isn't on there, but I had it on my list of suggested.
No, no, right, and I think that has been, we've already talked about that, but that's why I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes,
we,
yeah.
put what we want on the, or suggest, but recommend to put what we want on the.
Yep.
So we'll add that, if we choose to make any motions here, we'll add that to our list of
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
And
And
they're
there-
similar, but a little bit different, right? Yeah, the flexible is to either to clear the ambiguity and allow some flexibility as to whether, you know, to either reduce the front yard setback, or otherwise might just revert to the underlying zoning, which would be more restrictive, but it's not clear at this point, right?
Right, right.
Okay. And then almost along the same lines for Furnace Village, except Furnace Village is a kind of a mix of special permit and kind of just under the zoning bylaw, depending on what the project is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the way it reads currently is that the lot depth is to be 3 times larger than the lot width. And Greg was looking at that, and it seemed like that was not doable, that none of the existing lots could meet that requirement. So
Yeah, and even in some of maybe some of the proposed or other new developments that might be, you know, come up, yeah, that could be.
it would defeat the purpose of the other
Right.
changes to that zoning.
Anyone else chime in if you have any questions while we go along, or we can go back to anything. Okay, so how about for the kennels?
So potential zoning changes for Center Street, Depot Street. This is in the area of that intersection there, where the Reed House is, the church, and I think the old schoolhouse, you know, the Center Street School is really an opportunity to kind of think about what zoning might look like in that district. I think Greg has some ideas. And
Is it Greg? So Greg has ideas. Are there other ideas?
Yeah,
Or is it just
I think-
Greg's ideas?
well, no, and I think the town administrator has some thoughts. So we're
So-
meeting to discuss and see.
Okay, so there's no further detail from 2 weeks ago when we. talked about it. Okay.
No, not at this point. Okay, we talked about the change to the lot depth for Furnace Village. And then I had the kennels where there was inconsistencies in where kennels were not allowed in a residential district, and then they were allowed. I think, let's see, remove allowance for dog kennels in residential district and correct inconsistencies in tables of use, table of uses, where it's allowed in one area and not in another.
Yeah, our conversation on that will take about as long as we just talked about it, right? So yeah, once we, well, you never know what we get into, but, and bed and
Yeah.
breakfast that's,
So again, this is an inconsistency where the table of uses specifically notes that 5 to 10 guests require a ZBA special permit. And then section 235-39 states up to 3 bedrooms with site plan approval, and anything between 4 and 10 require a special permit from the Planning and Zoning Board. So again, it's just inconsistencies.
so we'll just try to unify that and figure out the
Yeah.
best way to handle it.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions, suggestions for other potential zoning amendments to?
Yeah,
Uh, next few weeks.
I wasn't able to send to Stephanie my document. I wanted to consult with some other members of the board. It's about solar arrays.
Mhm.
Basically, what I can summarize it is accessory uses does not mention the solar arrays. And they are actually, if you go to the building inspector, he say that they are, on this Article 14, but they are not. So probably all we need to do is add them there as a structure that are permitted. There was this discussion about what is the size of the solar array. So for residential, on the same Article 14, we can mention the fact that it should be for the use of the power of the residential, and not more than that. If not, it will be considered, something special that will require a variance or a different type of permit. And also the fact that the solar arrays in residential can be on the structure, on the building itself, or can be a separate ground mounted. And on that case, that accessory should be guided by the bylaws from the point of view of the sizes, the distance to the neighbor, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's not there. And it is an accessory structure, but it's not mentioned as such, like we are mentioning other structures. So I have a proposal. I have it that I would like to send to Stephanie so she can review.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sounds easy, but as we learned, and when we start talking about accessory structures, it gets a little more complicated. Like Stephanie, everyone, what do you think? I mean, is there a good time to revisit all that, including solar, or do we have a lot to do to get ready for what we might put to the town meeting or to the selectmen for the town meeting?
I think we're running a little short on time for this town meeting, and to have a really good discussion, because as Peter pointed out, and I know Bob pointed out when we were having this discussion on accessory structures last year, I think this is something that we really need to think about and go through, and probably spend like half a meeting going through the accessories. So Amos, coming to the table with what you're seeing as it relates to solar panels, and Deb as to the size, and I think.
And then Rob pointed out that everything is kind of doesn't match up anyways, then, right? Yeah, it's a big project.
Right, I think it's and you want to do it right, and right now, anything could come up. I mean, between now and next year, but I don't think, my understanding, Amos, is that you want to make sure that people aren't disincentivized to install solar panels for personal, for residential use and benefit.
The opposite.
And the building inspector and zoning enforcement officer is not denying a solar panel project at someone's home. I mean, if they were.
It's only mentioning the fact that is establishing the fact that it's happening. What is already happening. It's not putting any limitations. Besides the fact, and the building inspector did mention in his email to me, that if someone decided to make a big solar that is beyond the needs of the residents, for the residents itself, right?
If it's that straightforward, it could just be a matter of just updating the definition, where the definition of accessory structure says things like pools and other structures.
Mhm.
It might be, we could maybe just at least put on, look at the definitions of accessory, the definition that is, to see if it would make, if the building inspector is already considering an accessory structure.
Yeah, he does.
If it were a simple, and it's not like a site plan or even that many, it's subject to the same setbacks, right? So if it's a matter of adding the word solar panels to.
Yeah, is it about adding it because it's
I
not
think
there?
that might be doable.
Yeah, it's about adding this because it's not there. That's all. That's what we need to do. I will send you what I wrote.
Yep.
It might be simpler than and there is a issue on the tables, A1 and A2, I think, in which these solar arrays are not there.
Yeah.
I think it would.
It's just adding this, so you formalize the fact.
Maybe it's just like maybe a simple practice would just be to say, like, other possible minor, either cleric, like either, possible minor, is that even possible? Can we do that? If we notice some discrepancies or some, something that we had some bad wording somewhere in the zoning bylaw, is that possible that we could even bring that up after we take this vote today to talk about it?
I'll send you what I have. I think there are two areas. One is residential. It is just mentioning that these structures are permitted.
Yep.
Because this is not there. This is not defined. That's something that you want to do. So it's flying under the radar screen, and the building inspector is approving that. What is okay? Maybe we leave it like that. The other area is industrial and commercial, in which, if you can think on the future, a supermarket or an industrial building would like to have a big array on their big roofs, because that provided, and we have nothing about it. Anyway.
Right, but those are already being allowed and permitted.
Yeah.
We have several. There are, I don't want to say several, there are commercial buildings that have installed roof panels, and they don't even come, the building inspector considers that as part of that building.
Okay, maybe that's
unless we want to further regulate it, it's easy, maybe it's better to leave it as is. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can finish your thought. I didn't mean to.
No, I was moving on, so you can.
I was just going to say that I think that given that there's no language at all, and that's something that's happening, if there's a way to address or make minor modifications at this point, I think it's better than not doing anything. And I did actually look into it a little bit, and there are other towns that do have quite extensive language when it comes to, more commercial applications. And I feel like, okay, getting into, paragraphs of, what that all is, maybe that's something that, we need to put on the agenda for next year. But I think maybe at least addressing it in some way, if it's possible to do that, would be a good idea.
Okay, so
there we
So-
are.
you want to at least leave it on there. We can always do our best to get at it, and if we don't, then we'll at least have started, right?
So here's what we're running into. We need to there's a time frame in which, and I don't have the calendar right in front of me, in which we need to post the hearings. And we need to be very specific as to what the zoning relates to. And right now, so I'm not quite sure, is this considering solar arrays as accessory units?
It sounded like that's what Amos was suggesting, and it does seem
Right.
like other towns do also consider them. I don't know if every town does, but when I looked up a bunch of other towns, there were a number of towns that did classify them that way. And then there are certain towns that have more extensive language about, you know, application and size when it comes to commercial, and
Yeah.
which I think we probably don't have time to get quite into the weeds with that.
And is that, and just a question, are those generally ground mounted versus roof mounted
Stephanie.
on the commercial?
I mean,
Definitely.
it was both, but I think a lot of it was ground mounted.
Yeah, yeah.
Stephanie, we are very well regulated. We have an overlay district for installations that are 250 kilowatts and higher. Okay, so that is covered. The problem is in between. The residentials go up to 25 kilowatts, but in between 25 and 250, we have nothing.
Yeah,
Okay, and no one residentials will do more than 25 kilowatts. Not sure that will not, but if someone have the acreage and wants to do it today, they can. And I don't know what regulates them not to do it, besides the fact that it's considered commercial use and they will need to come for approval. But if you put it on if you clarify that on your bylaws and the usage, maybe you're going to be in a better shape. Maybe it's too late to come with this, but
yeah.
we need to think about it.
Well, and I could talk, I'm meeting with town council tomorrow on several issues as part of their regular office hours. And I can bring it up again because we have to be careful too about regulating or
Yeah.
regulating out.
No, we are not regulating out.
Yeah,
We are actually doing the opposite. We are including that so that people know that they can do it and what are.
and then what other requirements? And I would agree with that. I mean, I think on the commercial side, because what we're doing is retrofitting when we have an application that isn't within the ground-mounted solar voltaic overlay district, we're retrofitting those regulations to these other commercial applications. And I think so Stonehill has installed some outside the solar array district, and we had the high school, Southeastern Vocational, come with their ground-mounted application. And even though they didn't move forward, but it wasn't because of regulations or lack of regulations, but what we're doing is retrofitting the overlay district regulations. And I do think that it makes sense to look at that and make sure that that's not so specific to the district.
So we cannot contradict Article 40.
Yeah.
That's very important because it is over, bylaws cannot do that. So, but I am saying the opposite. I'm saying put it down so it's clear what it is and what needs to be done when you are out of bound, if you are. But in most cases, it will be okay. It's just mentioning, that's all. I'll send you my my work and you can take a look at it.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so what we have on the list here, plus the one that so we have business self-storage, outdoor dining in QS, GOD, Center Street, Depot Street intersection, Furnace Village District lot depth, kennels, bed and breakfast, and flexible development lot depth. So
Peter, I
Those-
also had I did send I feel like at our last meeting, Greg said, you know, we could just present it at our meeting and that we can't circulate it around for discussion. So I didn't send anything prior to our meeting, but I had I thought if there's a way, as Amos was talking about with the solar arrays, to just even tweak or even slightly modify or include language for accessory structures that would make it a little bit more clear, I think that would be helpful. So I did put some language together that we could, or even portions of it that we could potentially add to clarify our intent. So that was one thing. And then another item besides accessory structures, when I was reviewing the zoning bylaw for just in relationship to another project, I noticed that there's language for the in-law that states that you must have a separate entrance and that it must be to the side or the rear. And I was talking to Stephanie about it, and I was saying how it doesn't really make sense to me, especially when you think of like in-laws, usually you want it to be more accessible. So why would you have them? How would you have people walking all the way to the back of the house or even to the side of the house? Like so many houses have like a mudroom entrance or like a secondary front entrance. Why would they have to come before the board for a special permit? As long as they're providing a second entrance and it's clearly numbered, why is that language there? And Stephanie had mentioned that, yeah, she wondered about it too, and I should bring it up. So that was my other comment. It was really just about striking out side and rear in the language. But I sent it to Suzanne, who I think sent it to Stephanie tonight.
Okay.
And then Stephanie, I don't know what the process is. I don't think we're allowed to discuss it when we're not having a meeting, right? So I think Greg made it sound like you would just forward whatever the language is for all of this for us to review, and then we'll review it at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so that adds accessory structures, which could include residential solar if we so
Yeah.
choose. So that kind of that covers both of those, right?
Yeah.
And so we have that, and then possible minor change to
In-law.
yeah, right, change to in-law.
Mhm.
Do we have all those down there so that is somewhere to make a motion to put those on the up for public hearings? We'll have a accurate list.
Do we need to make an actual motion, Peter?
Yeah, why don't we go over one more time? All right, we have business self-storage, outdoor dining and QSGOD, Center Street, Depot Street intersection, Furnace Village District lot depth, kennels, bed and breakfast, flexible development lot depth, accessory structures, and minor change to in-law bylaw. So that would be a motion that someone could make to hold public hearings for zoning amendments on those items.
Can I just say so moved?
May.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Second, Stetson.
All in favor? Deshaun, aye.
Stetson, aye.
Am I?
Sarah guy.
Motion passes. That's what we have lined up, Stephanie.
Okay.
We had some meeting minutes and I did scan them and was good with those, but what was the date on those? So when we were to make a motion, we have it.
January 31st.
Okay. Anyone have any changes to those minutes?
Yes, I would like to change the word incentivize, because we are not incentivizing, we are properly mentioning.
Is
Thursday.
that for, under, referring to solar?
For solar arrays, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah, we're just accommodating, clarifying, right? Yeah,
Yeah, clarifying proper mention of,
good one.
it's not the function of the bylaws to incentivize really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
By
Great point.
defect we do, but
Okay, well, if you'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes with that change, you may proceed. Wait a minute.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as, I don't know, can I say as mentioned with that modification?
Kevin second.
All in favor, DeShane, aye.
That's an aye.
Kevin, aye.
Balsaric, aye.
All right, that motion passes. Stephanie, do you have any updates?
I do not at the moment.
Oh, how are things going along with that, the new,
The MBTA communities.
yeah,
So the review implementation team met last Thursday, was it last Thursday? Not last Thursday, the Thursday before. The next meeting is this coming Thursday. And there was a lot of discussion around what it meant. Thoughts on how there was some conversation about thoughts on where the districts might be incorporating some of the existing multifamily development like Avalon and Shovelworks. So that will be where they're at their meeting on Thursday. That will be part of the focus. We'll be talking about and looking at maps where those locations are. Greg and I actually met the other day with Wayne Beitler, the community planner, and talked about a lot of those areas.
yeah. It might be interesting for you and the other people to maybe hear what the town council has to say on that, right? I'm sure you already have actually, but yeah.
Yeah, town council provided some guidance after the DHCD guidance was issued. But yes, there will be a lot of consulting, making sure that if town moves forward, which it looks like that will be the case. I mean, there's a lot at stake from a financial standpoint with funding. One of the things that we did learn at one of the webinars that they had is that in addition to the MassWorks grant funding and the Housing Choice Initiative grants, that there will be in other competitive grant programs, there will be a priority placed on, or a heavier weighting on, applications submitted by communities that are required to be compliant and are compliant.
Yeah, I have a good friend that works for a town planning department in California, and they had a different but similar recent mandate where almost every town has to allow some type of multifamily by right. It's actually way more extreme than even this, even though this is not that attractive to a lot of us. I guess Washington DC has gone that way too. So
yeah, and I'd be curious. I mean, again, the whole idea is that this type of development would be centered around public transit centers.
Yeah.
So that it kind of makes sense. It gives people alternative transportation opportunities to live near those.
Yeah.
Transit opportunities and make communities more walkable, less vehicle dependent. In communities like Easton, what they're strongly suggesting is that you locate your districts near your sustainable growth districts.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sometimes these broad things kind of make it so much more difficult to plan when it just comes down from that form. But
yeah. But I think some of the areas where the town has seen this more dense development and modified some of the zoning, those are the areas that would make sense to try to key in to the
Okay,
district.
well, thank you for helping us out with that.
Yeah, and I think you'll hear more after the next meeting. So,
Any other board members have anything they want to talk about? No? Okay, you know what the next motion is then.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? DeShane, aye.
Stetson, I.
All right.
Now, Sarah guy.
Gentlemen,
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thanks for the help. Have a good night.
Good night.
thank you,
Thank you.
Peter.
Take care.